Long-term investing in the sports card world. Is it a thing? Does it make any sense? Or should we just be looking at short-term flips? Let's talk about this. Hello to all my sports card collectors, investors, all of my collectibles friends. Guys, I feel rested. I usually get 6 to 7 hours of sleep, and what happened last night was this was like just never happened. So I went to bed around midnight, woke up around 6:30 like usual, and then I just passed back out and I woke up at 9, which does not happen. And so I am feeling energized, ready to get my week started next week. We've got some great NBA basketball on today. Mavs play the Bucks, and then the Lakers, Nuggets. Is LeBron going to be out of the playoffs? We're not even talking about championships. Now we're just talking about, can the Lakers even make the playoffs? Wild stuff. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell, all the buttons down below so you're notified when we have new sports card collectible videos that come out just about every day. We just keep rolling along. The never-ending train, the never-ending story, whatever. Let's just go. All right, so I was getting caught up in some of the hobby content that I like to watch, and Rollin' with FD, great channel, check him out on YouTube. Rollin' with FD had AIH Sports on his channel just to talk through some things, and I like both of these guys. I watch both of their channels. They both bring different flavor, different parts of the hobby, and I like looking at different lenses of the hobby. I do not like, watching one person and just like, okay, let's go with that. No, I like to watch a variety of different people in sports cards, and frankly, with everything, with any type of investing, anything, whether it be equity stocks, whether it be real estate, whatever we're talking about, crypto. I like to hear from a bunch of different folks and then just try to kind of glean different things from each one. So both of these guys offer a lot of value. Now, part of this live stream, part of this conversation was about long-term investing in sports cards, and they both have kind of different takes on it, so I'll definitely just check out that live stream. I'll put a link to it in the video description, but I thought this would be a good topic to hit on. I've talked about it sometimes on the channel, and I'm a hybrid. I'm a collector / investor, and I think even if it's not by design, if you are a collector, in essence, you are a long-term investor, whether you call yourself that or not. And yes, there are going to be a lot of cards that you have that you don't necessarily care about value. I've got Saints cards like that. I'm a huge New Orleans Saints fan. I've got Marcus Colston cards. I've got Deuce McAllister cards. Am I looking for those to rise over time? Not really. That's just stuff that's in my PC. But then I also have certain cards like Otto Graham rookie card. Let's use that as an example. 1950 Bowman. That's a card where over time, my expectation is that hopefully it kind of goes up over time. Do I want it to triple 10x in the next 6 months? I'd love that, but I don't need that. That's not really what I'm looking for. And that's not any sort of sustainable growth. But unfortunately, we've gotten used to that over the last couple of years. Now, over the last 12 months, it's all kind of corrected and come back down, a lot of this stuff. But we went through the kind of that 2-year span, the pandemic card boom, where everything was just kind of moving up parabolic. Now it's kind of corrected. And I think that now we're starting to get into more of a reality, more of a realistic collectibles market. I've heard different takes on this where it's like, look, sports cards are really for short-term flips. That's really it. The long-term investing doesn't really make any sort of sense in sports cards or collectibles. And like with everything, it depends. There are certain cards that right now are probably overpriced based on the player, based on a lot of different factors, even GOATs. Everyone's, always talks about buying into the GOATs and buying into the GOATs, but in reality, we'll probably look forward 10, 20, 30 years, and at some point, there will be certain cards that maybe are fairly easy to find, maybe base type rookie cards that maybe they're about the same price in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We don't necessarily know. And these could be of great players, Hall of Fame players. So the idea that there's just safety in GOATs isn't necessarily true. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. There's also prospects. Everybody's saying like, oh, they're done. Their cards stink and blah, blah, blah. And in 10, 20 years, it'll be like, oh man, I wish I had gotten on that bandwagon, whatever player that ends up being. That will happen. That's part of the kind of, the speculation, sports betting, whatever that's tied into the hobby, and a lot of the fun part of the hobby that people are involved in. Speculating, prospecting on those few guys that end up being the Mike Trout or the Michael Jordan or the, Ken Griffey Jr. or whoever it is, that is a big part of the fun. If we look at particular sports cards and eras, I think long term, it has made a lot of sense. If you look at certain stuff, to me, when I look at a lot of kind of the eras, the stuff that's really kind of the same price or less than what it was is kind of that junk wax era, late 80s, early 90s. That's when I was collecting as a kid. And that is really the stuff, those raw cards, the 89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr., the Frank Thomas rookie cards, those type of things. They were probably more expensive 30 years ago than they are today. But outside of that era, if you're looking at, late 90s basketball and you're looking at, the Kobe's and the Jordans and that stuff, if that was held over time, a lot of that stuff is doing pretty good. So I don't want to discount and just say like, oh, it's just all for flipping. Same thing happens in equities markets and real estate. My wife and I sold a rental property a few years ago that I really wish that we had still, if we're looking at prices today. And real estate, of course, is at all-time highs. And also, the sale of that property enabled us to do other things within real estate, which has been good. So it's kind of like in sports cards, this is kind of that leveling up conversation where it's like, oh man, I sold and I did profit, but I didn't make as much as I could have. But those proceeds then got moved into larger cards, which are actually doing good too. So, that's the whole bit. But it happens in equities as well, where people are flipping, they're flipping stocks when if they had just held on to maybe Amazon, Apple over time or whatever, these big time companies, Coca-Cola, whatever, they'd probably be doing pretty good, but they were just trying to take these increments here and there. And with sports cards, it's not exactly the same. It's not. And collectibles, but there is something to that. There is some sort of correlation to it. They're different markets, very, very different markets. But to say that it makes no sense to hold cards long term, it's just too general of a statement. There's going to be a lot of cards that appreciate over time. There's going to be a lot of cards that don't. For me personally, I do have kind of segments. I've got it sectioned out where I've got kind of a fun prospecting bucket where it's like, okay, I've got these cards on this particular player. And then maybe over the next couple of seasons, if things go well, then maybe I can sell those for more than I paid for them. But then I've also got, Otto Graham rookie card, Pete Maravich rookie card, Jim Brown rookie card. Those I want to hold long term. I want to see what those are doing in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line. I'm curious. Part of it is that I want to see how that stuff does. Stuff that has natural scarcity, especially graded copies, that are in pretty good condition. And then I've got other stuff where it's just fun PC stuff where it's probably not going to appreciate over time. I will say that is a smaller bucket of what I'm doing now because frankly, I want to have all of it. I want to have it to where I'm collecting PC players like a Drew Brees, but I'm going to pick specific cards of Drew Brees. I'm not necessarily just buying all the Drew Brees stuff. It's the specific Drew Brees stuff that I think is going to do well over time. So I think you can kind of meld all these things together. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Long-term sports card investing. Is it a thing? Does it make sense for you? Or are you more of a short-term flip type person? And also, would you like to see more content around long-term investing / collecting? Or, do you really like kind of the short-term flip stuff? I like to hear all sides of this because I think you can do all of it, but always good to hear from you all. Hey, stay healthy, stay awesome. I will talk to you again later.